Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Piper Report. Before I begin with this video, I want to say that I am currently working on a video about the negative income tax. I know many people find economics boring, and I understand that, so I also go over the welfare state and entitlements in general in that video, and I kind of dissect it a little bit and why I think having a welfare state is a burden to the American people, and especially the American taxpayer. So hopefully that will be out next week sometime. Maybe this weekend. I work all weekend, so I might not have time, but we'll see. But anyways, CNN did an article which is quite surprising. Surprising for two different reasons. The first reason is that they're almost admitting that the Democrats may not sweep the country these midterms. And the second one is that they still believe in polls. If there's one thing this last election, 2016 presidential election, has taught anyone, it is that you should ignore the polls. The polls are not accurate. You have to also take culture into effect. You have to take popularity into effect. So many people missed the mark this year, especially Frank Luntz. And the problem with Frank Luntz is that instead of just admitting he was wrong, he kept going during election night. He kept going on to different media news outlets and trying to explain what was happening. He made it sound like he was right the whole time, and he basically changed his tune dependent on who he was talking to. So to that regard, he acted like he was always one step ahead of everybody, and the arrogance in that man is overwhelming. But anyways, to the article here. Let's go over some of it. New CNN poll has some actual good news for Republicans. It's been an unrelenting torrent of negative news for Republicans trying to hold on to their House majority this fall. President Trump's low approval ratings, a slew of retirements in competitive seats, and the crushing weight of history that suggests they are headed for major losses in November. But that doom and gloom might be lifted by numbers in the new blah 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 poll. Numbers that suggest that, at least at the moment, Republicans are not headed for a total pounding in 180 days. The most obvious number is that Democrats' once massive 16-point lead on the generic ballot, if the elections for Congress were being held today, which party's candidate would you vote for in your congressional district, is now down to just 47 to 44%. But dig into the poll further, and other shoots of optimism for Republicans sprout up. And this is quite typical during midterms. Usually, the party in power, they tend to do poorly in the midterms. The minority groups, the minority party, usually tend to do quite well. And reading some YouTube comments on various videos, some of the people think that not only will the Democrats win the House, but they will win the Senate. And they still think that Trump will be impeached and or indicted by midterms itself. The false hope that they are just emanating from them is truly overwhelming. And I'm surprised they were able actually to breathe through that dense fog of obscurity. But some people can't help themselves. Now, Trump has done a lot of good things as president. And he has also done things that I vehemently disagree with. I was on the Daily Caller the other day and I wrote a comment where someone said, Trump is the best president we have ever had. And I wrote that if you look at Trump objectively, yes, he has done great things. I mean, anyone who looks at him objectively will agree with that. For instance, North Korea. I mean, this is something that we have not seen for decades, almost a century. And yet, these two countries are coming together to try to initiate peace. GDP is up, unemployment is down, the labor participation rate is actually, I believe, flatlining now, which is also a good indicator of job unemployment. See, the unemployment results, the statistics, are skewed many, many different ways. The main issue with unemployment ratings are that if you're not looking for a job anymore, if you gave up, that is not included. Whereas labor participation rate, that actually indicates how many people are actually working in the labor force. So that is actually a more accurate number. And that is actually flatlining now. So the jobs are being created. And the tax cut could be better. Personally, I would go for a flat tax. I'd go for a flat tax of 10% and probably a 22% corporate tax rate. 2 tax brackets, one for corporate and one for personal. But I would also substitute entitlements with a negative income tax, which I will be discussing in a different video. But anyways, so there is positivity regarding the economy. People are expanding their businesses into different areas. There is more research and development. So from an economic standpoint, things are slowly getting better. And that is actually always, it appears anyways, for the most part, every single election cycle, the main issue is the economy because people want jobs. People want jobs. And they don't just want them, they need jobs. They need jobs to survive, to provide for themselves and their families, which is totally understandable. So, if Trump did everything wrong, but had a booming economy, people would still vote him in because their lives are better. Most people could care less what Trump tweets about or how he acts. Sometimes he acts like a petulant child. They don't care though. As long as they get a raise in their money, as long as they get jobs, as long as they're able to provide for their families, they don't care how Trump acts. It is only the people that despise Trump. It is only the people that hate this man so much because he proved them wrong when they were talking trash to everybody that they said Hillary Clinton would destroy Trump. And he proved them wrong. And then people, myself included, I did talk to some of those trolls, and I kind of laugh at them, not going to lie, because their arrogance was just so overwhelming that I kind of had to rub it in when Trump won. So now, they're using that as their fuel for their anger, for their hostility against Trump. So whenever he does something that they don't like, they criticize him for it. And we also see this type of mentality happen on mainstream news outlets. CNN, MSNBC, NBC, ABC, CBS, Huffington Post. I mean, the list goes on and on. New York Times, especially, Washington Post. So, to them, Trump's presidency isn't about the issues. It is about how he acts. It is about how he looks, how he behaves. So, in their minds, they cannot see the broader picture. They cannot see the big picture, which is that people don't care. If your lives are better, people will approve of Trump. And the funny thing is, a lot of what's happened, the president doesn't have as much power as people think he does. Congress has the majority of the power. But that's a side note. Anyways, where was I? We'll go over some of the information in these polls here. Number 1. The economy is becoming more prominent as a voting issue, as Trump recedes somewhat. More than 8 in 10 voters say the economy will be extremely or very important to their votes, while 64% say the same of the president. The better the economy does or is perceived to be doing, and the less that people see the 2018 election as a straight referendum on Trump, the better the Republican chances. While Trump's approval numbers remain stuck in the low 40s, he appears to be less of a drag on congressional Republicans today than he was a few months ago. In January, 52% said they would more likely be able to vote for a congressional candidate who opposes Trump, while 41% said they'd be more likely to back someone who supports him. That margin has narrowed in a new poll. 48% say they'd rather choose a candidate who opposes Trump, while 43% prefer a candidate who supports the president. Number 3. Republicans are getting more interested in the 2018 election. In March, just 1 in 3 GOPers said they were very enthusiastic about the midterms. That number is up to 44% in the new CNN survey. The point: none of this is definitive proof that Republicans will be able to beat back the Democratic wave. There's other evidence in the poll that suggests that among those most excited about the midterms, Democrats still carry a double-digit edge, for one. But for a party that has been without much good news for months, this poll will look like an oasis in the desert to GOP strategists and candidates. And again, like I said, the party in power usually does worse on the midterms than the minority party. But if things go good, if things continue to go good, if we see a resolution between North Korea and South Korea, if we see, I mean, a lot of conservatives back Trump's decision on the Iran deal. I'm kind of ambivalent on that. I mean, I agree with it, but I also disagree with it because the Iran deal did actually have certain stipulations in place, and well, maybe that's another video to get into. But so as things look now, as things now stand, the Republicans do have an uphill battle in the midterms, and as long as Trump keeps doing what he's doing and the economy keeps getting better, I don't think if they do lose, it will be as bad as we are led to believe. It's possible that the House may actually be quite even in terms of numbers. I think that the Republicans in Senate will still be in the majority as of now. I think they will still be in the majority. And right now, it's a very, very slim majority. The House is another question, though. The House is another question because we have a lot of prominent Republicans stepping down, and we're not sure exactly who is going to take their place. Paul Ryan is one of the major ones stepping down. So it depends on who's going to take his place. Remember, he is from Wisconsin. And Wisconsin is, well, I guess it did go red this last year, but for the most part, it has been primarily blue over the decades. So it all depends here. It all depends on who the candidate is. That is why in Missouri here, which I am not a citizen of, I hope they elect Austin Peterson. But they're pushing for this Josh Haley, we'll call him Haley, Josh Haley character, who really is no good, who lies, and just, he's a stooge of Mitch McConnell. And he already thinks he won the election. He's already, well, I'm not going to debate the other Republicans because I'm focusing on Claire McCaskill. I hope Austin Peterson destroys him in the election. I hope he destroys him in the primary because he also is someone who is very arrogant. Josh Haley, not Austin Peterson. Austin Peterson is, wow, he's good. He's good. He ran for the Libertarian Party as president in 2016. He's running as Republican now. I mean, he's kind of synonymous with Rand Paul on many issues, and I think it would be nice to have another Rand Paul in Congress, so hopefully he does well. But as long as Trump doesn't do anything too outrageous, I think his seat as of now is safe. There's still ways to go for the midterms. There's still ways to go for his reelection, but if things continue as they are, he will most likely be reelected. However, I do disagree with him on a lot of issues. Well, some issues. Like when he said, take the guns away first, go to court second. I mean, that violates due process, which is just so wrong, and violates the Constitution. And I think I made like 6 different bullet points on the things I disagree with Trump on that article I mentioned on Daily Caller in the comments section. I think one of them, too, was imposing sanctions on Russia. I don't think he should have done it. I think he did it to mitigate a lot of this rhetoric against him, that he colluded with Putin. So I think for him now, he has to take a strong stance against Putin, basically to placate those on the left who's saying he colluded with Putin. And almost like he's trying to contradict their accusations, which he doesn't need to because their accusations are unfounded. They lack any type of supportive evidence. There is more evidence that the DNC colluded with Russia than Trump did. I also not a fan how he is keeping up with funding terrorist groups. Both Tulsi Gabbard and Rand Paul introduced legislation to their respective houses to stop funding terrorist rebel groups. The bills didn't go far. Like, we were funding Al-Qaeda in Yemen and things of that nature. So, although Trump has done a lot of good, some of the stuff he has done is also very bad, and I vehemently disagree with it. But for the most part, he is, I think, meeting expectations, and a lot of people think he is far exceeding out expectations. So if they continue as they are, if the economy gets better, if wages go up, unemployment goes down, if we see peace in the North Korea-South Korea situation, and overall just a better welfare for the people, I think Trump will stay in office. And Republicans will probably hold their majority in the midterms. Or it'll be very close. And I'm done.